Peace to the gods. Uscpb here again with another document. I'm going to be doing a lot of videos on just certain documents because I feel like a lot of the old school documents, a lot of the gurus that you see on the website, on the internet, of course, they read a lot of materials and so forth. And there's a lot of information I think will just get lost if somebody doesn't preserve it. Some documents from the old school, I think, deserve a lot of attention and a lot of respect. And this is one right here, the Affidavit of Sovereignty. Now, this particular document has changed over time. This is the original that you're looking at right now. A lot of people changed it to Affidavit of Truth because the powers that be demonized the word sovereignty, even though it is quite clear within applicable law that the people are sovereign. But somehow, some way, so that's why they don't call you sovereign. They call you a sovereign citizen. They've coined a new phrase calling you a sovereign citizen. They want to stay away from this word sovereign because they know it's too many sites in the law books that show that the people are sovereign. So they made up some Jedi mind trick type thing that they're playing on everybody by calling you a sovereign citizen. And it's a lot of simple people, simple-minded people out there that seem to fall for it. Even among the guru circles, you'll catch them using this word sovereign citizen. Myself, the reason I'm doing these videos is, number one, I'm trying to get people to read again. People aren't reading. And you'll find a lot of information by just reading documents. So I'm trying to get people reading again. My second reason is to preserve a lot of the information that has been disseminated that I feel deserves a place in history. And as I said, I believe this document is one, this document constitutes such a case. I have used this in court, and it was the only thing I filed that got the attention of the prosecutor. The reason I filed it is because I read a document once again called Invisible Contracts, and I learned about something called minimum contacts. A minimum contact is essentially you using something of the system, a benefit or privilege, which grants jurisdiction to adjudicate the matter because now there's a public interest, a compelling public interest. Minimum contacts. Minimum contacts is a term used in the United States law of civil procedure to determine when it is appropriate for a court in one state to assert personal jurisdiction over a defendant from another state. The United States Supreme Court has decided a number of cases that have established and refined the principle that it is unfair for a court to assert jurisdiction over a party unless that party's contacts with the state in which that court sits are such that the party could reasonably expect to be held into court in that state. This jurisdiction must not offend traditional notions of fair play and substantial justice. A non-resident defendant may have minimum contacts with the foreign state if they, 1, have direct contact with the state, 2, have a contract with a resident of the state, 3, have placed their product into the stream of commerce such that it reaches the foreign state, 4, seek to serve residents of the foreign state, 5, has satisfied the Calder effect test, and 6, have a non-passive website viewed within the foreign state. So, I have people coming on my videos saying, all this is dumb. All you got to do is stop using their stuff, and basically just, go completely private. And I understand that it is the right thing. You're supposed to just completely eschew any and all benefits and privileges these people are offering you, even the use of Federal Reserve notes, as you've seen in John Wick, where he burned all the Federal Reserve notes. John Wick is a very good movie to watch if you really want to understand the private side. And just pay attention, watch it as an education and not just some form of, entertainment for some sort of entertainment value. But yeah, I understand, what truly being completely private is. You're not on these internets, you're not any of those things. You're completely 100% private. You're not using any of the benefits and privileges offered by the federal government. Okay, but there's a thing called minimum contacts. And that is what we are discussing today in this document, the Affidavit of Sovereignty. This particular document addresses the minimum contacts. Basically, what activity have you been engaging in
that allows the government to have an operational presumption that they have authority over you. Chances are you've been engaged in some sort of regulated activity that comes under their authority, or you've contracted with them in some kind of way. I have a document that I'm going to do a video on that spells all of this out. I mean, the trolls are going to hate this. And it is the very next video I'm going to do talking about this. I found it researching for this particular video. And but essentially it is, you have to understand the separation of powers. You have to understand what operates outside of the Constitution, property law and contract law on the private side. That's why it's vitally important for you to understand this chart on the distinction between public and private. You got to understand the distinction between public and private. A lot of people have accused, say, you guys don't want to pay any taxes. Well, the thing about it is there's something called tax evasion and tax avoidance. Okay, tax avoidance is lawful. There is no law that will prevent you from arranging your affairs in such a way where you don't have to pay taxes. That's every man's right. When these people say, well, you don't want to pay any taxes, they don't know what they're talking about. That lets me know, and especially if they're posturing themselves as some sort of guru or some sort of knowledgeable individual, then you should know that if you read all the case law and cites on it, then you understand that there is a distinct difference between tax evasion when you have basically involved yourself in some sort of activity or conduct that has created a taxable event, as opposed to arranging your affairs in such a way where you don't never cross those lines. And that is what I'm here teaching people to do. So no, there aren't any tax protesters here, but at the same time, it is perfectly lawful for a man to arrange his affairs in such a way where he does not incur a tax. It's all about taxes, y'all. That's how you know there's an agent, too. Soon as that person starts talking about taxes, or they ask you questions about it, 9 times out of 10, they're agent of the government. That's the best way you'll see it, because that's really the only thing that they really can involve you in a conversation with is taxes. Everything's about taxes in the public. Anyway, without further ado, let's go over this document. I'm going to read the document and then kind of narrate it a little bit. It kind of narrates itself because it explains everything. It gets into each of the minimum contacts and then actually explains why it is that you are, pointing this out. You should make this document your own, meaning that don't copy it word for word. Learn there are spelling errors in it and everything, but you can make it your own. Massage it. That's what a lot of people did, who started making it into an affidavit of truth, because they allow these people to scare them using sovereignty. It's amazing. I saw a comment. Somebody said, should we be using the word sovereignty since they put them on the terrorist list? They put sovereign citizens on the terrorist list. They didn't put sovereigns on the terrorist list. I don't know what a sovereign citizen is. I know what a sovereign is. I know that, that the creator of the boundless universe gave me sovereign authority over my body and didn't give nobody else authority over me. And whoever thinks otherwise is either a demon or a damn fool. They one of those two, fall in one of those two categories. I want you to believe that. Okay, so without further ado, let's get into it. The Affidavit of Sovereignty. Affidavit of Sovereignty. Equality under the law is paramount and mandatory by law. I, John Henry Doe, a titled sovereign, hereby declare that I am competent to manage all my own affairs. All other entities are incompetent to manage any of my affairs and are hereby fired. A sovereign cannot be tried in their own court. Consistent with the eternal tradition of natural common law, unless I have harmed or violated someone or their property, I have committed no crime and am therefore not subject to any penalty. Thus be it known to all, in the nature of UCC 1-207, that I reserve my natural common law right not to be compelled to perform under any contract that I did not enter into knowingly, voluntarily, and intentionally. And furthermore, I do not accept the liability associated with the compelled and pretended benefit of any hidden or unrevealed contract or commercial agreement.
As such, the hidden or unrevealed contracts that supposedly create obligations to perform for persons of subject status are inapplicable to me and are null and void. If I have participated in any of the supposed benefits associated with these hidden contracts, I've done so under duress for lack of any other practical alternative. Any such participation does not constitute acceptance in contract law because of the absence of full disclosure of any valid offer and voluntary consent without misrepresentation or coercion under contract law. Without a valid voluntary offer and acceptance knowingly entered into by both parties, there is no meeting of minds and therefore no valid contract. Any supposed contract is therefore void ab initio. Typical examples of such compelled and pretended benefits are: number 1, the birth certificate. The fact that a birth certificate was granted to me by a local hospital or government agency when I entered this world is irrelevant to my sovereignty. No status, high or low, can be assigned to another person through a piece of paper without the recipient's full knowledge and consent. Therefore, such a piece of paper provides only hearsay, date, and place information only. It indicates nothing about jurisdiction, nothing about property ownership, nothing about rights, and nothing about subject status. The only documents that can have any legal meaning as it concerns my status in society are those which I have signed as an adult with full knowledge and consent, free from misrepresentation or coercion of any kind. My birth certificates, warehouse receipts, have been redeemed, accepted for value in a UCC1 filing, signed on such and such date, the date of your UCC1 filing, received and recorded by either the Secretary of State or the local county clerk's office, whichever does it in your state, for the Secretary of State on the date of the filing, and then, of course, the filing number, which is your UCC filing number that they place on the document. And therefore, none hold any claim to either my straw man nor to my natural self. Number 2, the use of an identification number from a government agency. The number normally assigned to persons of subject status I use exceptionally under duress, only because of the extreme inconvenience of operating without one in today's marketplace, where it is requested by banks, employers, lenders, and many other government agencies and businesses. My reason for using it is not because I wish to participate in the system, as I do not wish to participate. Let it be known that I use the number assigned to me for information only, if at all. Number 3, the use of fiat currency to discharge my debts. I have used these only because in this country there is no other widely recognized currency. Number 4, the use of a bank account with my signature on the bank signature card. If there is any hidden contract behind the bank signature card, my signature thereon gives no validity to it. The signature is only for verification of identity. I cannot be obligated to fulfill any hidden or unrevealed contract whatsoever due to the absence of full disclosure and voluntary consent. Likewise, my use of the bank account, therefore, is due to the absence of a bank not associated with the central bank system. In general, people have been prevented from issuing their own currencies, and such prevention is in violation of the national constitution. Were there an alternative, I would be happy to use it. To not use any bank at all is impossible or very difficult, as everyone knows, in today's marketplace. Number 5, past tax returns filed. Any tax returns I may have filed in the past were filed due to the dishonest atmosphere of fear and intimidation created by the tax collector and the local assessor's offices, not because there's any law requiring me to do so. Once I discovered the tax agencies are lying to the public, I have felt it is my responsible duty to society to terminate my voluntary participation. Because such returns were filed under threat, duress, and coercion, TDC, and no two-way contract was ever signed with full disclosure, there is nothing in any past filing of returns that created any valid contract. Therefore, no legal obligation on my part was ever created. Number 6, the use of a driver's license. As a free sovereign, there is no legal requirement for me to have such a license for traveling in my car, as technically the unrevealed legal purpose of driver's licenses is commercial in nature. Since I don't carry passengers or freight for hire, there is no law requiring me to have a license to travel for my own pleasure and that of my family and friends. However, because of the lack of education of police officers on this matter, should I be stopped for any reason and found to be without a license, it is likely I would be harassed. Therefore, under duress, I carry a license to avoid extreme inconvenience. Number 7, state plates on my car. Similarly, even though technically my car does not fit the legal definition of a motor vehicle, which is used for commercial purposes, nevertheless, I have registered it with the state and carry the state plates on it, because to have any other plates or no plates at all causes me the risk of police officer harassment and extreme inconvenience. Number 8, Declaration of Citizenship. Any document I have ever signed in which I answered yes to the question, "Are you a U.S. citizen?" cannot be used to compromise my status as a sovereign nor obligate me to perform in any manner. This is because without full written disclosure of the definition and consequences of such supposed citizenship provided in a document bearing my signature, given freely without misrepresentation or coercion, there can be no legally binding contract. I make no allegiance to any earthly government. I am neutral to all. Number 9, past voter registration. Similarly, since no obligation to perform in any manner was ever revealed in print as part of the requirements for the supposed privilege to vote for government officials, any such previous registration on my part cannot be legal evidence of any obligation to perform. Likewise, I have granted no jurisdiction over me to any political office. It is my inherent right to vote on elections or issues that I feel affect all society, not because I need anyone to rule over me. On the contrary, I have used the voting process only to instruct my public servants what a citizen and sovereign would like done. Number 10, marriage license. The acquisition of a marriage license is now being revealed as being necessary only for slaves. The act of a sovereign, such as myself, obtaining such a license through social custom and ignorance of law has no legal effect in changing my status. This is because any such change in status, if any may be supposed to occur, could only happen through a hidden and unrevealed contract or statute. Since no hidden, unrevealed, and undisclosed information, if it exists, can be lawfully held to be binding, it is null and void. Number 11, children in public school. The attendance of my children in government-supported public schools or government-controlled private schools does not create any legal tax obligation for me or any other legal obligation because I never signed a contract agreeing to such obligation for the supposed privilege of public school attendance. If any of my children have attended government-supported public or controlled private schools, such was done under duress and not out of free will. Be it known that I regard compulsory state education as a violation of the natural and universal common law of freedom of choice. Number 12, use of semantics. There are some immature people with mental imbalances, such as the craving to dominate over other people, who masquerade as government. Just because they alter definition of words in the law books to their supposed advantage doesn't mean we have to accept those definitions. The fact that they define the words person, address, male, resident, motor vehicle, driving, passenger, employee, income, and many others in ways different from the common usage so as to be associated with a subject or slave status means nothing in real life. Because the courts have become entangled in the game of semantics, be it known to all courts and all parties that if I ever signed any document or spoke any words on record using words defined by twist in the law books different from the common usage, there can be no effect whatsoever on my sovereign status in society thereby, nor can there be created any obligation to perform in any manner by the mere use of such words. Where the meaning in the common dictionary differs from the meaning in the law dictionary, it is the meaning in the common dictionary that prevails, because it is more trustworthy. Note, such compelled and supposed benefits include, but are not limited to, the aforementioned typical examples. My use of such alleged benefits is under duress only, and is with full reservation of all my common law rights. I have waived none of my intrinsic rights and freedoms by my use thereof. Furthermore, my use of such compelled benefits may be temporary until better alternatives become available, practical, and widely recognized. Federal jurisdiction. It is further relevant to this affidavit that any violation of my rights, freedom, or property by the federal government or any agent thereof would be an illegal and unlawful excess. clearly outside the limited boundaries of federal jurisdiction. My understanding is that the jurisdiction of the U.S. government is defined by Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17 of the U.S. Constitution, quoted as follows. The Congress shall have the power to exercise exclusive legislation in all cases whatsoever over such a district, not exceeding 10 miles square, as may, by cession of particular states and the acceptance of Congress, become the seat of government of the United States, District of Columbia, and to exercise like authority over all places purchased by the consent of the legislature of the state in which the same shall be, for the erection of forts, magazines, arsenals, dockyards, and other needful buildings, and to make all laws which shall be necessary and proper for carrying into execution the foregoing powers. And Article 4, Section 3, Clause 2. The Congress shall have the power to dispose of and make all needful rules and regulations respecting the territory or other property belonging to the United States, and nothing in this Constitution shall be so construed as to prejudice any claims of the United States or of any particular state. The definition of the United States being used here then is limited to its territories. Number 1, the District of Columbia. Number 2, Commonwealth of Puerto Rico. Number 3, U.S. Virgin Islands. Number 4, Guam. Number 5, American Samoa. Number 6, Northern Mariana Islands. Number 7, Trust Territory of the Pacific Islands. Number 8, military bases within the 50 states. Number 9, federal agencies within the 50 states, including U.S. post offices. It does not include the 50 states themselves, as is confirmed by the following sites. We have in our political system a government of the United States and a government of the several states. Each one of these governments is distinct from the others, and each has citizens of its own who owe it allegiance, and whose rights within its jurisdiction it must protect. The same person may be at the same time a citizen of the United States and a citizen of a state, but his rights of citizenship under one of these governments will be different from those he has under the other. Slaughterhouse Cases, United States versus Crankshaft, Volume 92, U.S. Reporter, page 542, year 1875. The United States government is a foreign corporation with respect to a state. Volume 20, Corpus Juris Secundii, Section 1785. This is further confirmed by the following quote from the Internal Revenue Service. Federal jurisdiction includes the District of Columbia, the Commonwealth of Puerto Rico, the Virgin Islands, Guam, and American Samoa. Internal Revenue Code, Section 312E. In legal terminology, the word includes means is limited to. When referring to this district United States, the Internal Revenue Code uses the term within the United States. When referring to the 50 states, the Internal Revenue Code uses the term without the United States. Dozens, perhaps hundreds of court cases prove that federal jurisdiction is limited to the few federal territory areas above indicated. For example, in 2 Supreme Court cases, it was decided the laws of Congress in respect to those matters do not extend into the territorial limits of the states, but have force only in the District of Columbia and other places that are within the exclusive jurisdiction of the national government. Caja versus United States, Volume 152, U.S. Reporter, page 215. We think a proper examination of this subject will show that the United States never held any municipal sovereignty, jurisdiction, or right of soil in and to the territory, of which Alabama or any of the new states were formed. Volume 44, U.S. Reporter, page 221. Because the United States have no constitutional capacity to exercise municipal jurisdiction, sovereignty, or eminent domain within the limits of a state or elsewhere, except in the cases in which it is expressly granted. Volume 44, U.S. Reporter, at page 223. Alabama is therefore entitled to the sovereignty and jurisdiction over all the territory within her limits, subject to the common law. Volume 44, U.S. Reporter, at page 228 and 229. Pollard versus Hagan, Volume 44, U.S. Reporter, page 221, 223, 228, and 229. Likewise, Title 18 of the United States Code at Section 7 specifies that the territorial jurisdiction of the United States extends only outside the boundaries of lands belonging to any of the 50 states. Therefore, in addition to the fact that no unrevealed federal contract can obligate me to perform in any manner without my fully informed and uncoerced consent, likewise, no federal laws apply to me or have any jurisdiction over me. My use of the United States Postal Service to receive mail is under threat, duress, and coercion per federal law, which asserts that this service must be used rather than private commercial delivery services, and the receipt of mail addressed with two-letter capitalized federal zone abbreviations, in other words, HI, or numeric federal zone designations, zip codes, does not place me in any federal zone nor federal jurisdiction. For despite repeated pleas to those who send mail to me, they have been brainwashed in compulsory state brainwashing centers, public schools, and insist on canonicalizing the format of my mailing location into a federal zone format. And in fact, this process has been embodied in most computer software, making it impossible to receive necessary communications at my mailing location rather than at a federal zone address. This is further enforced under threat, duress, and coercion, and that the local post office refuses to deliver to general delivery for longer than 30 days. Thus be it known to all, in the nature of UCC 1-207/308, that I reserve my natural, common law right not to be compelled to perform under any contract of adhesion that I did not enter into knowingly, voluntarily, and intentionally. And furthermore, I do not accept the liability associated with the compelled and pretended benefit of any hidden or unrevealed contract or commercial agreement. And specifically, I refuse to be included in any federal zone. As such, the hidden or unrevealed contracts that supposedly create obligations to perform for persons of subject status are inapplicable to me and are null and void. If I have participated in any of the supposed benefits associated with these hidden contracts, I've done so under duress for lack of any other practical alternative. Revocation of power of attorney. Furthermore, I hereby revoke, rescind, and make void ab initio all powers of attorney in fact or otherwise, implied in law or otherwise, signed by me or anyone else as it pertains to the government identification number previously assigned to me, as it pertains to my birth certificate or any other license or certificates issued by any and all government or quasi-governmental entities, due to the use of various elements of fraud by said agencies to attempt to deprive me of my sovereignty or property. I hereby waive, cancel, repudiate, and refuse to knowingly accept any alleged benefit or gratuity associated with any of the aforementioned licenses, numbers, or certificates. I do hereby revoke and rescind all powers of attorney, in fact or otherwise, signed by me or otherwise, implied in law or otherwise, with or without my consent or knowledge, as it pertains to any and all property, real or private, corporal or incorporeal, obtained in the past, present, or future. I am the sole legal owner and possess a allodial title to any and all such property, including, but not limited to, my physical human body. I affirm that all the foregoing is true and correct. I affirm that I am of lawful age and am competent to make this affidavit. I hereby affix my own signature to all the affirmations in this entire document, with explicit reservation of all my inalienable rights and my specific common law right not to be bound by any contract or obligation which I have not entered into knowingly, willingly, voluntarily, and without misrepresentation, duress, or coercion. The use of the notary below is for identification, and such use does not grant any jurisdiction to anyone. Further, affiant saith not. Subscribed and sworn without prejudice, as said in the Uniform Commercial Code 1-308-207.